This Crime Time podcast here with this big breaking news in the Bryan Kohberger evil demon case.
We have some breaking news here on ABC News Live Reports. I'm Alex Brachet in Washington. Right now, we are following news out of Idaho. Bryan Kohberger, accused of murdering 4 University of Idaho students in 2022, has accepted a plea deal. ABC News has confirmed that he has agreed to plead guilty to all counts. ABC News Live anchor Kana Whitworth is on the phone with us. She has been following this case from the beginning. And Kana, what details can you share with us about how this deal came together?
Yeah, Alex, this is simply a stunning turn of events in a case that has gripped this entire nation. Up until today, we were looking at an August 18th trial date with Bryan Kohberger's life on the line. What we know now from families who received a letter is that Bryan Kohberger has accepted a plea deal. In part of this plea deal, the defendant will plead guilty to all counts listed in the indictment. So that is 4 counts of murder as well as a burglary count as well. He will serve 4 life sentences consecutively with no possibility of parole. And the defendant will waive all rights to appeal this conviction as well. It also sounds like they will be seeking some restitution for families. This is things like money for funeral expenses and, victims' compensation. The next thing that's happening, Alex, is there will be a change of plea hearing, and that is this Wednesday, July 2nd. And so for some, this may be some finality and some closure. For others, you have to imagine, Alex, there are so many unanswered questions in this case, and I'm sure that there's fear that those questions will remain unanswered. But here we are, after more than 2 years, the one and only suspect in the Idaho college murders case, the man who stood accused of murdering Xana Kernodle, Madison Mogen, Kaylee Gonzalez, and Ethan Chapin. His name is Bryan Kohberger, and he has accepted a plea deal.
Well, and listen, Kana, of all the trials, it feels like we've been keeping track of over the last several weeks. This was the one that we anticipated was at least going to have some sort of resolution later on in the year at the earliest. But for our viewers that are just kind of catching up, can you walk us through what the past several months have been like with this case?
It's been tumultuous. There has been filing after filing and pushback from the defense, initially trying to delay the trial. They have maintained their client's innocence this entire time. They wanted to have the death penalty taken off the table. They tried many times unsuccessfully for that to happen. In the meantime, this has been under a gag order. So people involved in this case have not been able to speak out about it, which is why so much of this case has been shrouded in secrecy. We thought that it was going to go to trial in Moscow, and then it got moved down to Boise, and then it got pushed back yet again. And so here we are now, about a month before this trial was supposed to start, and we have learned that instead of a trial, there will be a plea deal.
Kana, do we know that in this plea deal, was there anything that was taken off the table? Was the death penalty taken off the table?
The death penalty is taken off the table. So exactly, in exchange for pleading guilty, the death penalty will be taken off the table. It's a pretty standard cut and dry plea deal. There weren't very many concessions, which you have to imagine there may have been families out there that wanted concessions like that.
Well, and the other thing is, because we just saw your interview earlier today with the friends of some of these victims. I don't know if you've had a chance to speak with them since this news, but for our viewers, how are they hoping to remember their best friends?
It's so important, after speaking with Emily Allant and Hunter Johnson, the two that were the first to arrive at that King Road home, that the world remember their friends for how they lived their lives and not for their last day, not for how they died. I had a chance to speak with Ethan Chapin's entire family as well, and their family motto is to live like Ethan. He was a beaming, bright ray of sunshine. All of these kids were really described in that manner, and that's what's the most important here, is that we remember these kids, we remember how they lived, and we don't lose sight of the families here. Maybe there's finality here, but they never get to wake up with their kids ever again.
Yeah, that's a great reminder. I remember in that interview hearing one of the friends talking about how they really kind of rejected this label of the Idaho Four, because you had four individuals who had, different personalities and very much their own identities here, and that's something that we certainly don't want to lose. Kana, if you don't mind sticking around, I want to bring in our legal contributor Bryan Buckmeyer, who's also with us right now. And Bryan, first off, did this deal surprise you?
Oh, Alex, absolutely. This is shocking and surprising for a number of reasons. Now, whenever you have a death penalty case, the major issue or major concern that a defense attorney will have is trying to get that off the table. And so understanding there's a plea deal where Bryan Kohberger will not be put to death, especially in a state that has such, let's say, wide-reaching ways in which they can employ the death penalty, that makes sense. But he's still going to die within prison. I mean, this sentence is 4 consecutive life sentence. No one lives that long, especially not in prison. So I would have thought, based on the offer that was given, he would have still have gone to trial because it's death one way or another.
Well, and also the timing of this, Bryan. I mean, is there anything to glean from that? We talked about that August 18th trial date, essentially.
Yeah, so plea deals always get their best the closer you get to trial. And there's a number of factors that go into it. If you think about it from a defense attorney's side of view, or even the defendant's point of view, they're getting nervous. They're getting worried. Whether you're innocent or guilty, or you believe yourself one way or the other, having your life in the hands of 12 people that you've never met before can be very, can shake you to your core in many ways. And for the government, they're thinking about putting on these witnesses, putting on people who are going to testify about some of the most horrific events that happened probably in this community, and putting the family through this all. And so they're thinking about sparing the family. Now, we know at least to some degree that a letter must have been sent to the families to okay this. And so the families, at least on their face until we hear otherwise, presumably were okay with this offer that Bryan Kohberger would spend the rest of his natural life in prison without having to be subjected to the photos, the testimony, and the imagery that would have come from this trial.
What do you make of his defense team's strategy in this case?
I think it made sense. This is a defense team that was a public defender office from a neighboring county facing a death penalty case. And what you do with that is you fight zealously and vigorously to save that person's life. And in some regards, and in many regards, actually, they achieved that here. Bryan Kohberger will not be put to death by the state, and instead will spend the rest of his natural life behind bars. And in a death penalty case, as I said earlier, that is in many ways a victory. And you make every argument you can, not just for the trial court, but also for appeals. And I think with here, they're going to walk away saying their client accepted a deal. Their client obviously knew, or hopefully knew what they were facing, understood what they were facing, and we'll find out on July 2nd if this actually happens, because a plea doesn't happen until they actually say the words. There have been many instances where people agree to a plea deal and then ultimately reject it at the 11th hour or close to the 12th hour there. And so I think the strategy made sense. They got in many regards what they were looking for, and I think we'll see what happens on Wednesday.
All right, our thanks to Bryan and Kana. But yes, breaking news today, according to a letter sent to the victim's family, Bryan Kohberger has agreed to plead guilty on all counts. He will be sentenced to 4 consecutive life sentences and waives the right to appeal.
All right, so you heard what it is. He's going to plead guilty on all counts, right? This guy wanted to play hardball. The case stalled on for multiple years, right? And all these court motions and, everyone, all the media hype behind this case. This is something we got to realize when we take in this true crime content. As I always point out, I mean, it's a very popular genre, right? And it's good for awareness, safety, just for people to be aware of what goes on in the world, right? But this is real lives of people lost in very grisly, evil ways. As you heard, the family, we'll get to it. They're not exactly happy in a sense with the way this was handled. Stay tuned, we'll get to that. And you heard about them not wanting to be really referenced as the Idaho for just all this attention this case got. And Bryan Kohberger, people comparing him to Dexter, and oh, this guy's so smart, he wanted to commit the perfect murder, he almost got away with it, this, that, and the third. The guy's an evil demon. He tried to play hardball in court. They tried to ask for the death penalty to be taken off the table a while back, right? But here we are now. He's not going to trial. He's pleading guilty to get that off the table. 4 consecutive life sentences. Restitution, obviously, we know the family's never really going to get that. That's just protocol, the way the court goes. But comment and let me know if you guys feel me on that. All the attention this case got, like, oh, this guy's, he's smart, he's on the spectrum to the point he's like a genius, he went to college, or he's a graduate, or whatever, all this BS. The guy's an evil demon. And, he was just stalling in court. His defense team did do some good things strategically, right? But at the end of the day, they were just stalling out and filing a lot of motions and hoping to get a lot of stuff suppressed, and maybe a technicality goes their way evidentiary-wise, and they got some kind of fighting chance. But you see, when it all comes down to it, here we are. Trial was getting closer and closer, and he's going to take this plea, unless we do have to point out that there is a possibility that could not happen. Things could change, but, the reports have been confirmed at this point in time. He is going to take the plea, and that's what it is. And at the end of the day, I mean, it's a good thing in my opinion. Let me know how you feel about it. Like, does the trial really need to play out? Do some feel, F it, take him to trial, convict him, get the death penalty, or let him rot away, and we know how individuals like him are going to be dealt with in prison. The rest of this guy's existence is going to suck, as it should. And, I'm sure someone will try and go upside his head and F him. You know what I mean? I'm not the type to preach violence, but fuck this guy, man. Whatever he gets, he gets. He's a sack of garbage. He's no criminal genius. He's no savant or whatever. He's a sack of garbage who's a weirdo and committed these atrocious crimes. And just all the media hype, at the end of the day, it was this guy's just trying to play hardball and hoping his defense team, like I said, could get a win or two and whatever. But as far as what I was saying about the families, we got a couple things I want to go over here, right? So this resolution is our sincere attempt to seek justice for your family, prosecutors wrote in a letter. This agreement ensures that the defendant will be convicted, will spend the rest of his life in prison, and will not be able to put you and the other families through the uncertainty of decades of post-conviction appeals. Your viewpoints weighed heavily in our decision-making process, and we hope that you may come to appreciate why we believe this resolution is in the best interest in justice. And very often, too, that's another reason individuals go to trial, right, with cases, is because, as you heard, when you take a plea deal, there is a waiver of appeals. It's all signed away, and individuals file all these appeals. We know when the DP is on the table, that's a whole nother story as far as appeals that delay the execution or whatever. But just in general, aside from that, if one is convicted at trial, there's always grounds to file appeals. It doesn't mean anyone's going to win, but it's just a way for them to drag things out, and people having to return to court, and just a lot of stuff for people to not be able to put things behind them, which, let's face it, like I said, this is not something anyone can ever really fully put behind them. I mean, losing friends, family, loved ones in such a gruesome, grisly way just because some sack of garbage wanted to go out and kill. You know what I mean? That's something else too I want to talk about, where they were saying there's going to be a lot of questions that remain unanswered. I mean, let me know what you think about that. In my opinion, for the most part, they've ironed out the timeline. I mean, there's some minor questions or whatever, I guess, but I don't know. Like, I'm just intrigued to know what everyone thinks about that. For the most part, this piece of shit just went out and wanted to kill and did so. But as far as what I was saying, the family, there's a statement that says, after more than 2 years, this is how it concludes with a secretive deal and a hurried effort to close the case without any input from the victims' families on the plea deal apologies. Our family is frustrated right now, and that will subside, and we will come together and always and deal with the reality that we face moving forward. And also, no outcome can replace what they lost. That's the university said. We will never forget the 4 incredible lives taken. And in that statement from the family, they clearly weren't happy, right? But they did say that they feel that those feelings will subside. They said a secretive deal. I don't believe that that was the court's intentions. It's just the family feels so strong of what was taken from them, just from pure evil, like a demon. And you know what I mean? They're saying about input in regards to the stipulations of the plea, but in this case, I don't really think there's any other way to do it. He's pleading guilty to all counts, all 4 murders, the burglary, 4 consecutive life sentences. Once again, restitution, which is just like standard and protocol, but he's going to be behind bars working for whatever. I don't even, and that's, again, hopefully this dude gets his head cracked wide open behind a wall. Will he be able to work? Will he be able to even leave his cell? I don't know. His existence will be pure shit, as it should be. But I mean, there's really no other way for the plea to go. Hey, we'll take the DP off the table. He pleads out. He can never repeal nothing. I feel like the family just more or less wish that they were consulted with off top. I can understand their frustrations. But then again, like I said, you heard them say, hey, this will subside, you know what I mean? And then I'm paraphrasing basically to the best in which it can, because it's just, there's no 2 ways about it, man. Horrific evil events happened at the hands of an evil demon who set out just to do that. You know what I mean? Like I said, everyone was comparing this guy to Dexter in the media. I don't know that, did he ever say that or not? I'm not sure, but Dexter is a fictional character in a very popular show. I'll watch it. There's actually a new season set to kick off soon, but Dexter had a code. You know what I mean? Dexter was a guy that his father, he came from trauma, came from Born in Blood, which, as the story has went on in the newer seasons, I don't mean to get off topic with the side conversation, but he wasn't technically born in blood, but his mother was killed or whatever, and for whatever reason, him and his brother both grew up with this chip on their shoulder and, wanted to kill. And his adoptive father came up with the code to use them in a most righteous way in which you can. You know what I mean? That he went out and killed people that fit his code, Harry's code. I spoke about this in another video. Bryan Kohberger went out and just killed some innocent college student. It's not the same thing, you know what I mean? Bryan Kohberger would be a guy that Dexter would kill, you know what I'm saying? So let's get all that bullshit out the way. But it's just an evil demon who did what he did. And, at the end of the day, like I said, all these coverage of this, all the hype, the media hype and everything, and he was just trying to play hardball, because here he is now, like, pleading it out. He can't win the case, and he knows it, and he's a sack of garbage, and he will burn in hell. So there you have it, the big update. And once again, there is a possibility in which he could change his mind. I don't see that happening, but who knows, you know what I mean? So there you have it, Kohberger to plea out. Share your thoughts, you know what I mean? How the family feels, how you feel about it all. Like I was saying too, just in general in this true crime content space, like, again, it's a very popular genre. People find it to be, they get whatever they get out of it. It's messed up to say, in reference to what we're speaking of, but people find it entertaining, or the awareness, or just want to know what kind of evil lurks out there in the world, or they want to know how the justice system handles these cases and deals with these individuals. Or many people find it interesting on the forensic side of things, investigations and solving cases and such, you know what I mean? But then there's some people that feel like that stuff being out there gives sick bastards like this a leg up on trying to find a way around getting caught or whatever. I don't know. We just have to always keep in mind with the true crime, man, that these are real lives in which we're watching these cases about. And at the end of the day, this case is truly heartbreaking, you know what I mean? So let's discuss it all in the comments. Thanks again for tuning in to the Crime Time Podcast channel. Subscribe, hit the buttons for me, help me break through in the algorithm, help me get this out there to more people, to hear from more people. If you are new, that is always what the idea is on this platform, is to talk with you guys in the comments and get everyone's input, your thoughts, your take, your opinion. And as always too, I don't claim to be any kind of expert. I'm just an individual making content, looking to engage with everyone out there and talk with the people in this crazy world in which we live in. So subscribe, let's talk, and I will get with you guys on the next one. Crime Time Podcast signing out. F you, Bryan Kohberger. This guy acting like he was some kind of genius, like he was gonna beat the case or something, man. F out of here. You got some media attention, you filed some motions or whatever, but you're gonna plead guilty.